Hannah felt her world crumble the moment Marcus walked out the door. She couldn't believe how quickly everything she had built, their home, their laughter, the quiet evenings with Oliver, was gone. Marcus had always seemed so sure of everything, so confident, but one misunderstanding had destroyed years of love. The house felt empty without his presence, but even worse was the hollow ache in her heart, knowing she had to face life alone with her little boy. Oliver didn't understand why his father had left. His small hands clutched hers as he asked questions she couldn't answer. Bills piled up, meals were skipped, and the nights were the hardest, when silence pressed down like a weight on her chest. Hannah had never imagined that her life could change so completely overnight. She spent hours staring at the walls they had once filled with laughter, wondering if Marcus had ever truly cared or if love had only been an illusion. Each day she fought back tears for Oliver's sake, swallowing her pain and pretending to be strong. But deep inside, a fire was growing, a quiet determination that one day, the truth would come to light, and justice, in its own way, would be served. Hannah had no choice but to leave the house she once called home. Her parents were too old to help, and their small apartment offered little comfort. She turned to her younger brother, Ethan, hoping for support. Ethan welcomed her, but only reluctantly, as if her presence was a burden. From the first day, Hannah felt the weight of unwelcome eyes and whispered complaints. Her sister-in-law, Laura, was cold and sharp, giving Hannah tasks that seemed endless. She scrubbed floors, washed dishes, and cooked meals, all while caring for Oliver, who still missed his father terribly. Laura never lifted a finger to help, instead criticizing every little mistake Hannah made. Hannah moved quietly through the house, trying not to draw attention, but every glance reminded her that she was dependent, trapped in a place that felt more like a prison than a home. Nights were the hardest, when exhaustion hit, and Oliver's soft breathing was the only sound she could hear. Despite the constant humiliation and endless chores, Hannah refused to complain. She focused on Oliver, on keeping him safe and fed, on surviving one day at a time. Deep inside, she promised herself that she would not break, no matter how cruel life became. Hannah barely had time to catch her breath when Ethan told her she could no longer stay. With nowhere else to go, she moved from one friend's home to another, always feeling like a burden, never truly welcome. Each night, she worried about Oliver, whose cough had grown worse, who complained of pain and weakness that no mother could ignore. Money was almost non-existent, and Hannah took any work she could find. She cleaned houses, ran errands, and eventually found a small job at a local general store. Every day was a struggle to balance keeping Oliver healthy, buying his medicine, and making enough money to survive. The nights were long and lonely, and sometimes she cried quietly so Oliver wouldn't see. But in the midst of hardship, something inside her grew stronger. She refused to give up. She refused to let Oliver suffer for the mistakes of the past. Every small victory, getting him medicine, seeing him eat, watching him sleep safely, became a reason to keep going. Hannah realized that survival wasn't just about living, it was about fighting with everything she had, and she would do anything to protect her son, no matter how hard life became. Hannah began to notice a strength inside her she had never known before. Each day, she worked long hours at the store, sometimes taking extra shifts to make sure Oliver had everything he needed. She never complained, even when exhaustion pressed down on her shoulders. In small moments, she taught Oliver lessons about life, how to face challenges with courage, how to keep hope even when things seemed hopeless. She wanted him to grow strong, to never feel helpless like she had. At night, when Oliver finally slept, Hannah would sit quietly with a notebook and write. She poured out her feelings about Marcus, the heartbreak that still throbbed in her chest, and the unfairness of the life she had been forced into. But her writing was not bitter or violent, it was honest. She began to see a path forward, one where she could claim justice in her own way, not through revenge or anger, but through truth and resilience. Every word in her journal reminded her of her power, of her ability to survive and protect her son. She realized that even in the darkest times, the human spirit could shine, and she would use that strength to shape a future where neither she nor Oliver would be powerless again. Marcus pushed open the door of the small general store, expecting only a quiet errand. Instead, he froze. Behind the counter stood Hannah, older, worn, but carrying herself with a quiet strength he had never noticed before. His heart sank as he saw Oliver sitting nearby, thin and pale, yet with eyes full of determination. The boy reminded him painfully of the son he had abandoned. Marcus stepped back, trying to stay unnoticed, but his gaze kept returning to them. He watched Hannah move carefully, balancing tasks, helping customers, and checking on Oliver. She had survived years of hardship, and yet she had never lost her dignity. Guilt gnawed at him like a constant ache. He realized, with a cold clarity, that everything he had assumed about her, everything that had driven him to leave, had been wrong. The misunderstanding that had seemed small at the time had destroyed so much, and he had done nothing to prevent it. Standing in the doorway, Marcus felt a mix of shame and longing. He wanted to reach out, to speak, to make amends, but fear and uncertainty held him back. He had never truly understood what it meant to leave a mother and her child to face the world alone. Marcus finally walked up to Hannah, forcing a calm tone as he asked about a simple item on the shelf. Hannah looked at him carefully, sensing something more in his eyes than curiosity. She answered politely but kept her distance, her posture firm, her expression unreadable. As he lingered, asking more questions, Hannah felt a surge of courage and began to speak. She told him about the years after he left, the cold nights, the endless chores, the hunger, and the worry for Oliver's health. She spoke of the humiliation she endured from relatives who saw her as weak, and the constant fight to keep her son alive and safe. Her voice was steady, but each word carried the weight of pain and endurance. Marcus listened, stunned. He had imagined some struggle, some hardship, but he had never expected the full story, so raw and real. The truth hit him harder than any confrontation could. He realized how badly he had misjudged her, how quickly he had abandoned them based on a misunderstanding. Every detail she shared revealed her strength, her courage, and the depth of his own failure. Marcus felt shaken, ashamed, and powerless as he faced the human cost of his mistakes for the first time. Hannah looked Marcus in the eyes and spoke with quiet authority, telling him everything he needed to hear. She described how she had struggled alone for years, working long hours and facing every challenge without complaint. She explained how she had managed to keep Oliver healthy, even when money was scarce, and how she had never let despair take control, no matter how dark the days became. Each word painted a picture of strength and determination that Marcus had never imagined. He listened in silence, feeling the weight of every hardship she had endured, and slowly realized how impulsive and destructive his own actions had been. The divorce, the abandonment, the assumptions, all of it had been unfair, cruel even. Hannah's calm and poised voice made his shame even sharper, leaving him speechless and unable to defend himself. He had thought leaving them was justified, but now he could see the full human cost of his decision. Every sacrifice she had made, every lonely night, every struggle to survive and protect their son was a mirror showing him the truth about his own failure. For the first time, Marcus understood just how deeply he had hurt the two people who had once been his world. Hannah decided she would not stoop to anger or public shame, but she would make Marcus face the truth of his actions. She wanted him to feel the weight of his choices and the consequences they had caused. She brought Oliver closer, letting the boy speak freely, his small voice steady but filled with questions. "Why did you leave us?" Oliver asked, looking straight at his father. Marcus froze, unable to answer at first, his eyes filled with guilt and confusion. Hannah watched silently, letting the moment unfold, giving Marcus no escape. He stumbled over words, trying to explain, but the truth was undeniable: he had abandoned them when they needed him most. Oliver's questions cut deeper than any accusation, they reflected the years of pain and struggle he had caused. Hannah stayed calm, her presence strong, guiding the confrontation without anger, letting Marcus realize the depth of his mistakes. The emotional tension was unbearable, yet necessary. For Marcus, it was a reckoning he could not avoid, a moment where he had to confront the human cost of his impulsive decisions. Hannah's plan worked, not through revenge or humiliation, but through truth, honesty, and letting the consequences speak for themselves. The boy's courage and her composure made him face the reality he had long ignored. Slowly, Hannah and Marcus began to rebuild what had been broken. Trust did not return overnight, but small steps marked their progress. She forgave him quietly, not because he deserved it, but because holding on to anger only weighed her down. They began to work together for Oliver, planning his days, his health, and his happiness with a new understanding. Marcus realized that words alone could never undo the past, only consistent actions and care could show true change. Hannah's strength and patience guided the process, setting boundaries while offering a chance for reconciliation. Each day they spent together, sharing responsibilities and small moments, built a fragile but growing sense of family. Oliver, cautious at first, began to see his father differently, noticing the effort Marcus made to be present and caring. The house, once a place of struggle and silence, slowly filled with life again, not perfect, but real. In their shared moments, Hannah and Marcus discovered a new love, deeper and more honest than before, born from hardship and resilience. The reunion was not about forgetting the past, but about creating a future where honesty, effort, and shared strength could guide them forward as a family. After 8 long years, Hannah and Marcus finally found peace. They chose to marry again quietly, without fanfare, promising each other that no misunderstanding would ever come between them again. The years of pain, struggle, and loss had taught them both the value of patience, honesty, and true commitment. Oliver, who had endured so much without fully understanding, began to thrive in this new environment. He laughed more freely, played without fear, and felt safe in the love of both his parents. Hannah watched him grow with a heart full of relief and pride, knowing that her sacrifices had kept him alive and happy. She realized that survival was not just about enduring hardship, it was about maintaining dignity, showing strength, and seeking justice in measured ways. Rage and bitterness could destroy, but truth, resilience, and love could heal even the deepest wounds. In the quiet moments, Hannah reflected on the journey, the pain she had faced, the courage she had found, and the life she had built for her son. She understood that love, when earned and nurtured, had the power to overcome betrayal, suffering, and loss. After everything, the truth had done more than set them free, it had healed their hearts.